Indonesia has strategically kept out of the disputes in the South China Sea, but that might change. These are the Natuna Islands. They are Indonesia's sovereign territory, which places the 200 nautical miles extending these islands within its exclusive economic zone. But this overlaps China's claim. Their 9-dash line in its original publication places the waters beyond 75 nautical miles within its own sovereign territory, and this dispute has recently escalated. It started in 2016 with a standoff between the Indonesian and the Chinese Navy over the detainment of Chinese fishermen, and it erupted in 2021 when Indonesia started drilling for oil. This oil field is valued by the Indonesian government to be worth $500 billion. China and Indonesia have both significantly increased their military presence in recent years. The Indonesians have built a base on these islands and organized the largest exercise in their history, while China is encroaching these waters more frequently and blatantly. This is whether China is stealing the Natuna Islands with hindsight. The Natuna Islands are part of the Riau Archipelago, situated between the Malay Peninsula and northern Borneo. They have historically been mostly influenced by states on the Malay Peninsula. The British and the Dutch, in times when they administered these regions, agreed that the Dutch would not expand its influence north of Singapore. This was all the way back in 1824, but the Natuna Islands were never mentioned by name. And even though that disagreement put the islands within the British sphere of influence, they were formally annexed by Indonesia in 1956, 1 year before Malaysia's independence. The islands have formed part of Indonesia ever since. They are located at the center of a vital trade passage, linking East Asia and West Asia. This ocean carries an estimated, wait for it, $3.4 trillion in annual trade. But the Natuna Islands are also of importance for Indonesia's fisheries. Indonesia is, after China, the largest exporter of fish in the world. The waters around the Natuna Islands alone make up 6% of its entire fish stock. In 2016, the dispute intensified. The Indonesian Navy arrested 8 Chinese fishermen for fishing within their exclusive economic zone. But then a boat from the Chinese Coast Guard appeared and they tried to free them. This incident broke a pattern. Both nations up to this point declared that they had no territorial dispute. Similar encroachments in the past were dealt with quietly and in the background. This changed their dynamics. The Indonesian president then visited the islands on a warship, and these pictures traveled the world. This was interpreted as a message to China. They would protect their territorial sovereignty. 1 month later, an international tribunal in The Hague ruled that there's no legal basis for China to claim historic rights to resources falling within the 9-dash line. This basically nullifies China's claim around these islands. The following year, Indonesia renamed the area to the North Natuna Sea. China has remained ambiguous over whether it recognizes Indonesia's 200 nautical mile border, while they state that they don't dispute the islands. But China's confrontation of the Indonesian Navy completely changed their dynamic. And Indonesia is treading on thin ice. Their main export destination is China, and they are by far their biggest source of foreign investment. The Chinese investment under the Belt and Road Initiative has been crucial to President Widodo's domestic economic agenda. Indonesia is balancing its relationship between China and the United States. They haven't condemned the war in Ukraine, but they do participate in joint military exercises with the US. In late 2018, Indonesia opened a base on the Natuna Islands, stationing over 1,000 soldiers. but tensions would only rise further. In December 2019, a fleet of Chinese fishing vessels entered Indonesia's exclusive economic zone. They were accompanied by 2 Chinese Coast Guard vessels and a frigate. The 63 fishing vessels stayed there and fished for 5 days. Indonesia responded 2 weeks later by calling on fishers operating in the Java Sea to move to the Natuna Islands. Shortly thereafter, an Indonesian oil rig began drilling 2 wells, 140 nautical miles north of the Natuna Islands. Immediately upon learning this, the Chinese sent a Navy ship to patrol the rig. The Indonesians sent one of theirs, and this kicked off a tense period of mutual harassment. Over the next 4 months, Chinese and Indonesian ships were shadowing each other around the oil and gas field, frequently coming as close as 2 kilometers from each other. During this time, Indonesia and the United States held a 2-week military exercise, which they have done frequently since 2007. Then, China sent survey ships to conduct seabed surveys in Indonesia's exclusive economic zone. For the next couple of months, they would conduct research on the seabed as Chinese Navy boats were offering them protection. That's when the Chinese sent a letter to Indonesia's foreign ministry, demanding that they would halt drilling in the disputed waters. This communication has not been publicized, but Reuters report that their sources said that China made repeated demands that Indonesia stop drilling. That's when Indonesia announced its largest military exercise in its history. This time under the banner of 14 nations, including a combined 4,000 soldiers. The changed attitude between China and Indonesia is reason for concern. On a geopolitical level, for its potential implications on the stability of the region. On a local level, because it's directly affecting the livelihood of the somewhat 80,000 people that live here, whose primary income is fisheries. And on a national level, because it could compromise Indonesia's relationship with its most important trade partner. This video you're seeing on the left talks in detail about the South China Sea dispute. Consider it for your next watch.